it do, folks? It's your boy Charles Younger here, along with Professor G, the OG, Mark Gray. How are we doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Got a new vision for the athletic program at Maryland now. We're talking about a guy who comes from a organization in professional sports that's had a great deal of success, a guy who's on the cutting edge of revenue generating. So all in all, if you're going to play the game with the big boys, you got to have a big boy to lead you. And it would appear to me that with the new athletic director being hired, James Smith. He's got athletic administrative experience with a franchise in Major League Baseball that is always competing to win. And I think the fact that he brings a business approach to athletics is something that Maryland may not have been as far on the cutting edge of revenue generating is concerned. So to me, Maryland's having a tremendous offseason right now when it terms to getting a Buzz Williams as the basketball coach. James Smith is the new athletic director. The infusion of Pep Hamilton into Mike Loxley's coaching staff. All in all, the stewardship of the program seems to be back on point. I just wonder, will there be enough games won to satisfy the fan base? And I don't know what a reasonable expectation for that number of wins, because you look about average, all the experts are saying they're a 4.5, 5.5 win team. And I'm not quite sure what the direction that this athletic department is going right now, if that's going to be good enough to sustain the expectations of the fan and the job security of the head football coach.
I'm a big fan of cheesy, but that smile is way too cheesy for me. With him in that picture there, almost looking like he's like, trying to impress too much. But let's talk about this gentleman's background. He is, as it says here with his press release, over 2 decades in both university and professional organizations, including the Atlanta Braves, Ohio State University, the Ohio State University, the Atlanta Falcons, AMB Sports and Entertainment, the Columbus Crew, among others. So he's not only worked
and with that AM and Chuck, with that AMB Sports Information, that's Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, who has done a masterful job at being part of gentrification of downtown Atlanta with that new building that they got to play the football in the Final Fours and the Peach Bowl and the national championship games. I mean, and then they also, he's got a feel for like Olympic sports, having dealt with soccer. I mean, when you talk about a man that's running athletic department of 550 student athletes, 250 full-time members in the department, you got to think global, right? And I think that this reflects, at least on paper, a global approach to intercollegiate athletics that I'm not quite sure we've seen at the front office in this way, quite frankly, since Kevin Anderson. And I think Kevin Anderson gets a bit of a better bad rap around here. I mean, he was smart enough to have the foresight to know that it was time to get out of the ACC and get to the Big Ten plus however many after came along. You know what I'm saying?
The Big 18.
He was out in front, Chuck, of saying, we want to be a player. We got to get away from the good old boys and go to the Big Ten. And look at the good old boy conference right now. People trying to get out, they're dropping like flies. I would have to say that the Anderson legacy is aging pretty well right now. And I'll be interested in seeing if Smith comes along and is able to take the program to the next level. And I think a part of it is going to be not only wins and losses, but visibility that gives you credibility. You know what I'm saying? If you're seen in a Sweet 16, if you're seen in a college football playoff, or you win a game or two, that's going to open more pipelines for you. And it also, from a purely business standpoint, if you know players who want to come to your program, first and foremost, it is capitalism right now. Everybody's trying to get paid, right? But if you can give them an opportunity to be paid and pay on a bigger platform, I think it's a knockout of the box. And I don't know James Smith, never met him, but his credentials reek to me of pushing all the right buttons on getting a guy or person, I should say, that you want to run the overall department of athletic director. There are enough people that can interact with the athletes and the students, but you got to have a long-term progressive vision for revenue generation and how you're going to spend the money to subsidize all your programs. And looking at, Mr. Smith's background, credential-wise, he looks to be the perfect guy for the job. How he interacts with those employees, the relationships that he builds, what kind of things does he change that may make people uncomfortable to deal with in a certain way. Those are all intangibles that need to be worked out. But I got to tell you, man, when I look at this guy's resume and look at the broad approach to not only men's or conventional American sports, but Olympic type sports, and how to figure out ways to creatively generate revenue for those platforms in a tougher market, like going after MLS sponsorships. If you can get MSL sponsorships in Atlanta, then when you're just outside the nation's capital in a place like Maryland, certainly with a great athletic program, I think the sky's the limit. I think fans should be more optimistic than pessimistic, and I'm anxious to learn and talk more with him. I've been watching the program, for 40 years. So I can't say that I've ever I'm not learned enough about the other credentials that the other athletic directors who were hired before him had, but it was a new world. It was an old school order then. It's a new world order now. And I think we've gone from, at the very least, digital to high def in the athletic department and trending towards 4K.
Yeah, and the fact that he has worked in several different sports is a huge, huge benefit. He said he's made money in MLS, and Maryland does have a pretty solid soccer program here, so that's another avenue of revenue the school can bring into, like, hey, tap into that soccer market, tap into those other sports that are seen to be on the uprise, women's sports, soccer, lacrosse, etc. So he has that, as you say, the resume. We don't know the man, don't know him from a campaign, but from what his resume says, this guy could be the real deal when it comes to replacing Damon Evans as the athletic director. And one thing I want to add, that while he was at the Atlanta Braves, how they converted that new stadium in Cobb County to be like a all
right,
multi-use system where they have, it's sort of like basically it's like a little small city
around. Yeah, it's a battery park. Yeah, that's kind of like
around the ballpark.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And I mean, there were a lot of people, and I know from a fact, in interest of full disclosure, I worked in Atlanta for 10 years. I'm real familiar with the sports scene. I still got sources down there. I mean, when you start talking about what they did with that concept out in Marietta, Georgia, which people were saying is about a half an hour away from downtown, in good traffic. And it's not really that far. It's really about a 15, 20-minute walk. So there were a lot of people that did not want the epicenter of sports to move away from downtown. He was on the cutting edge of the people who did that, and it's working out pretty good. You got to remember that what is it, Truist Park down there? They're hosting the All-Star game for Major League Baseball this year. This guy knows how to do big time things, and I think that might be the most important part of his job at Maryland. The build out, there is you do have tiers in the Big Ten now. Let's just open the can on that. You have the haves and the have-nots. And I think Maryland is one of those schools right now that's kind of caught in the middle, who should be playing with the big boys. There's a big boy hire that I think can pay big boy dividends. No offense, ladies. Okay, I know I'm in there, Title IX. I got to talk gender equity, if you will. But this is a big boy hire. This is a visionary move. And again, we don't know what his specifics are, But the fact of the matter is, he comes from generating revenues at pro sports and major college franchises. That's something that I don't think that Maryland has ever had from a vision standpoint. And he may be able to come up with the concepts that may work for, say, a Kevin Plank to become more active, to have the kind of impact in College Park that we saw Phil Knight have at the University of Oregon using Nike dollars. Maybe there has not been anybody in the front office from the athletic department standpoint who can make the kind of pitches to the corporate partners that get you to take another step. Because one of the first things, and I'm going to call you out, Maryland, something got to happen with the stadium. Something has got to happen with the stadium. I'm sorry. I mean, Maryland's never going to be a place that's going to sell out all home games with a 100,000 seat stadium. But you have to create something that makes playing in the stadium something that fans want to be at. You know, it's a tough place for the opposition. I just kind of think that they went outside the box and they hit a home run. And I'm glad to see that. You know, I mean, Maryland's a place that always prides itself as a university on a place that likes to take chances, you know, give people breaks or what have you, unconventional norms. Okay, this may be an unconventional norm, but I like that because I'm tired of the way that the clique of athletic directors around the country in major colleges seem to be dictating the tempo of the move overall in collegiate athletics. And I think that at this moment in time, we need somebody that can be in that room and to play that game so that Maryland's voice is amplified. I mean, when you're a state university that's 30 minutes away from the White House, you should be able to brag about it. You should be able to flex, quite frankly. And there's some things that you can flex on if you're part of Terp Nation. And I just think that sometimes you're going to see the apron pulled up, and then we're going to see a new breed of Maryland. And I think that if his credentials match up with Dr. Pond's vision, 10 years from now, we could be having a totally different story about the football program as one of the, you know, premier programs in the Big Ten if things go right.
Yes, let's move on to that. Let's talk about his overall impact. We touched a little bit about it opening up, but I want to go a bit more into detail when it comes to like just particularly the football program and the impact on what's going to happen with that. Because as you can see, we've had a lot of players coming in through the transfer portal, and now that we have more stability at the top, do you think that it's going to be more of a chance of us to get not only keep the talent, local talent who always seems to want to go somewhere else besides Maryland? They want to go to your Texas. They want to go to your Alabama. They want to leave the area. Do you think the fact that someone like Smith can give not just football primarily, but not just football, but all sports, where all of our local athletes, because this area, high school wise, is stacked. Probably is very like one of the best areas of high school talent in the country, stacked with, you know, all sports. Will his leadership in the athletic department help let the students, athletes want to say, hey, I want to stay home and possibly play here in Maryland?
Dude, these days, when it comes to recruiting, every kid has its price. I hate to put it to you like that, but you got to have more resources in the coffers in order to get the kind of talent that you're going to see play, you know, into December and early January in order to get good. That's the number one thing. You got to get the talent. And so you got to generate the revenue to get those difference makers. There are 2 or 3 iconic difference makers on every championship run. In this new world order of NIL, in order to get that player, even if you only have him for 2 years, you got to have the money. Coach Prime said it when he was making bad rap records when he was a cornerback in the NFL. It must be the money. It is about the money, man. I really, really do. I just think about that. How much can you offer to get the kids in? How much can you up the ante or give them a raise if it works out really well to keep them around? I mean, to me, that's the whole key. You know, first pay me, then win. I'm gonna get visibility, and the reputation should be saving itself. I mean, it really should. I mean, we start looking at Just the number of dudes like the Dominique Foxworths and the Stephon Diggs, those are brands that came up from your program that the school doesn't get any benefit from. They got all that celebrity. So I think you got to weave in, more successful people from the media who are Terp faithful. A lot of guys, Van Pelt is Mr. Terp, right? For all intents and purposes. But it's all those things that it's intangible things, man. That's the word I'm looking for. Stuff that you don't see what it is, don't know what it is, but once you see it, you know it, right? And I think that Maryland doesn't do a good enough job at selling the fact that they've had significant contributors in the NFL for quite some time. So it's not as it's a combination effort of marketing to get the best student athletes, but then also marketing the success of your alumni inside the program. You know what I'm saying? Whoever it is. I mean, I kind of look at I'm trying to think. I just got a text, so pardon me, folks. Every once in a while, you get one of those things that just kind of takes you aback just a little bit. But to me, again, you want the floss, right? And for those of you who are cool and paired, flossing is bragging, taking pride, all that kind of stuff. Used in proper urban context. We flossing, y'all. Maryland seems like it doesn't want to floss. Floss, damn it. You're between DC and Baltimore. You got pretty damn good facilities. Anytime I see ESPN come down and do a ESPN promo in Maryland's football stadium, you must have something going on, or at least the indoor facility. But we got to flex. You flex by winning, beating Penn State in particular. Not that I'm going to ever let that one go. All right. You have to beat Penn State. You have to beat James Franklin. He's public enemy number one. All right. Then you move your way on up the level. But what, to your point, Chuck, in order to keep those people here, you're going to have to sell. This is a generation of floss, style, what's the term? My brand, right? People always want to flex their brand. You can have 230 followers total on social media amongst all four of your platforms, and you got a brand. So what Maryland has to do is you're trying to reach younger people. You got to be willing to come down to their mindset, play the game at the level that their handlers are handling, and then make sure that they get a good experience, and hopefully you can win. I don't know if Maryland Love will be able to get the kind of money that you'll have in a place like Texas or Florida, where you have big-time boosters making significant contributions, but you won't get that money until you start flossing. So the athletic department has the floss. Once you floss, you win games. It gives you a cachet, brand, if you will. Okay. So and that's what we're looking for right now. Okay. That's 100% where it is, where I am with it, Chuck. And I think that if Smith is going to really have a significant impact that's an intangible, bringing the shine to the program. That's basically what it is. What visionary things can you do aside from generating revenue and winning football games that's going to make your program a thing? And it should already be a thing. It's a multi-sport athletic program that competes at a high level in its conference in just about every sport. You got national television for every sport. I mean, come on, man. What's not to love to be here at this time? You just got to be willing to get out there and sell it. And that's why I think you bring a fresh perspective from a guy who's coming from a place like Atlanta, where they always seem to have it going on with some big event, learning how to generate revenue, maybe steal some of the nuances that made the football team gravitate towards everybody who's regular. I mean, those are the things that you get, apparently, as I look at the credentials that the new athletic department, athletic director has. I see the potential for it, but, potential when not realized leads to severance.
In the words of the $1 Million Man, DiBiase, everybody's got a price. And that's going to be the key for Maryland players to stay here. Oops, I just knocked something over. Maryland players here in the DMV. But I also want to talk about long term for the football when it comes to like Coach Mike Locksley. He did sign an extension that runs to 2028. And do you think that the leash on Locksley is getting shorter under this new leadership, or do you think he's going to maybe want to bring his own guy in, or is he going to roll with Locksley as the guy to lead this team moving forward?
You ask a very interesting question because sometimes when you're the person that's in a position and you inherit them and it doesn't go well, sometimes you end up with, because the athletic director is going to come in with a list of candidates. Every athletic director I've ever talked to when there's a change coming up at a coaching position, you always got 2 or 3 candidates in your back pocket. You know what you're looking for. You've got relationships in the whole bit. That being said, I mean, we're talking about somebody who's got experience with Ohio State and knows people from down south. I will say this. It can't be a devastating season. What I'm talking about is you can lose games, but it's how do you lose? And how do you lose to, Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana, USC, UCLA, you know what I'm saying? And I don't mean to disparage anybody else out there, but when we start talking about flossing, you got to get big wins. You got to get big pelts. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to get a pelt from, a baby sheep. It's another thing to get a pelt from a buck. And they're going to have to start getting some pelts off the bucks. You know what I'm saying? And to me, it may not be as much about wins and losses as who you beat. You know what I'm saying? Because you can finish 8-5 and beat nobody in the, what are we doing, quad 4? Or I don't even understand the ways that teams are evaluated, because you get a victory, but it's not a victory because of the RPI or the strength of schedule, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So the sad part about things is you can win 8 games and not beat anybody, be eligible for a bowl and worthy of termination by the standards that we playing by today. So I think it may be too premature to call it make or break season for Locks, but it's a season where you got to turn a corner and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming up to crash you. You know what I'm saying? And see, that's where I am with this program at this moment in time. I like what Locks did to fortify his coaching staff. I love the fact that you got a legitimate quarterback battle going into fall camp. The speed from the outside. I mean, some of my sources are telling me the freshman kid is going to really push the transfer. That's what you want to see. But you're gonna, if I'm Locksley, I'm thinking I got to get big pelts this year. I got, you want to get every win. Nobody's more significant than the others, but in the eye test, the credibility test, when kids are thinking about, wow, Maryland can offer me $2 million in our money, and so too can Penn State. Where am I going to go that's going to give me a better chance to shine? Unfortunately, at this moment, because of Penn State's reputation on the field, that is, they're more inclined to go to Penn State. Maryland's got to change that dynamic, and they also got to figure out a way to keep some of those kids that are going to Ohio State and Michigan in town. All of that to me is about the floss. I think when you generate the revenue, you win a few big games, particularly the ones that are on national TV. That changes the trajectory of your program. But you got to do it, and you got to do it now. I think Mike Locksley knows how to do it. It's just a matter of, do we have the same kind of infrastructure that he had in Alabama? And can you put one together that will be sustainable like the one Saban had down there, which almost got Kalen DeBoer fired after he didn't make the playoffs?
Well, speaking of Mike Locksley getting it done with the players, I want to talk about he's bringing local talent back here, talent who have left the DMV area to go play other places and realize that, hey, the grass might not be greener somewhere else. And these kids, starting off with this young man here who decided to transfer back, Carlos Moore Jr. He's a lineman. He's from Bowie, played the Elon, 6'5",
Yeah, I
305,
saw that.
redshirt
Right.
junior.
Mm-hmm.
Played 11 games, starting 10. Elon, 6 started right tackle, 4 started left. He saw actions as 5 games as a redshirt freshman. Played his high school ball at St. John's,
Right.
where he also played with Sean Williams and Shamar McIntosh. He was a high school captain, so he's known for his leadership, and he has 2 years eligibility remaining, so he can come in and be an effective, leader for this team for the next 2 years. We talked about this last week, how they need those hogs, those big fellas up front to impose their will to help this team win games. So, and we talk about a little bit about how the fact that over the past 2 months we've seen all these players transferring in from all these other schools because they realizing, hey, maybe I can find that opportunity for me to shine here in Maryland.
It goes back to my point, Chuck. I've been saying it all along. The way that the portal is in this out of control world, until the NCAA or somebody puts some barriers around this organized free agency, right? This is the way you're going to have to try to catch lightning in a bottle. The days of having a freshman class come in to play 4 years together, and then you go from, the outhouse to the penthouse and get yourself a chance to play for a college football championship. Maryland's going to have to be one of those teams right now in this moment that has that Indiana type season from a year ago. I think if they can pull off something like that, just an amazing run, it sets the paradigm for change for the whole program for the next decade. And I think that's the nature of the portal right now. If you're a program at like Maryland, who you can't call a mid-major because they play in the Big Ten, but when it comes to college football, based upon the resources that are allocated to the football programs at Ohio State, at Michigan, at USC, at Oregon, you know what I'm saying? Until they can, find a way to beat those teams, you're going to have and build programs because players want you to be a destination. And I think that's the key point that we got to understand about where Maryland is right now. I'm not quite sure Maryland's program is the destination that it should be for whatever reason. And I take it all the way back to Randy Edsall if you want to go there. So you Randy Edsall apologist wants to see me, you know how to reach me on social media. But, it was like after Friedgen left, there was Randy Edsall. And then and it's like the tractor's been stuck in the mud, the mayonnaise mud. I'm done with it. No more mayonnaise. Not even with the big hats. But
was that from the Breakfast Club? Too much goddamn mayonnaise.
So, but that's where Maryland's got to figure it out, man. It's a tiered approach. You ask a very good question about the status of locks potentially after this year if they don't win. I would assume that they may have a guy that our athletic director has a relationship with, who may be able to come in and do a Signetti. I still believe in Loxley. You don't coach under Nick Saban and don't, by even happenstance, right, not learn how to win some games in big moments, build a program, keep it there. It was a different world then. But I got to believe that the savvy that he has is enough to pull it through. And with the right kind of support in place. And another interesting dynamic is Loxley was not a coach that was hired by this athletic director. And while you want the coach who is there when you inherit the program, you want him to be successful in your early tenure. Maybe you can get you 1 or 2 chips, that is, championships for those of you who are cool and paired, and then renew the deal, right? But you have a 6 and 7, 6 and 8 type season. That's a tall order these days right now. And again, it's the system that is putting the pressure on the coaches right now. And that's why we need to get some kind of reform around NIL and intercollegiate athletics, or I'm worried that the government's going to get involved, and you'd have more people who don't know the inner workings of intercollegiate athletics. I don't trust that they would operate in the best interest of the game or the kids, and we'd have a lot more kids that probably would get that $2 million on the surface and not exactly take care of it. So there are layers to it, Chuck. Layers to this thing, and that's why it's so important with the hire that Maryland made, the athletic director, that got somebody who is a visionary, who has implemented his vision and can convince people that it'll work. And I think when you look at his resume, there's a lot of things away from the field or the court or the diamond or the pitch, wherever you are, that this AD can do with his business acumen that can help take the athletic program to the next level. Because we know one thing. While he's out raising money, Colleen is doing a great job stewarding the ship. Let's be clear about that. The way she handled everything in the midst of the NCAA tournament while hosting the women's tournament with your basketball coach getting ready to bolt, and it becomes a public story, she kept everything calm. You would have never known what was going on behind there. And that alone shows me there appears to be a sense of stability in the front office. And when you got, that consistency and people used to working together behind the scenes, I think the infrastructure is in a better place for this season to spring forward. But it's tough conference, man. Tough conference. You just can't. There are no gimmies. Even if you go to Champaign, there are no gimmies. Heck, Nebraska. I mean, come on, man. You still got to go out to those football places. And I think this is sometimes, Chuck, what happens when you're in a place that, for as many good football players have come from this area and this state, this is truly a basketball state. I mean, and I think sometimes that kind of dwarfs the football program. But win 2 games in the college football playoffs, and I tell you, it changes the dynamic and the level of expectation that we really haven't seen since Ralph Friedgen, to be honest with you.
Well, I want to say something that is in Coach Loxley's favor is that he did have, outside of last year, which I think last year was a fluke season for the fact that the quarterback play was not there to keep up with it. But he did have 4 consecutive winning seasons before last season, and he is 3-0 in bowl games. So I don't care what you say, but the level of the bowl games, you still got to win those bowl games you go to. And I think that Loxley has shown when he took over in 2015, it was, you can see the progression. Went from 1-5 as an interim. Then we took over full time. It was 3-9. Then I think the 2020 season can be thrown away because that was a COVID year. So that one doesn't count. I would say that's for all leagues. That league is,
right.
Say what you want. It's a thing. But
that's the asterisk season.
Yeah, come back from COVID, 7-6 with a win the Pinstripe Bowl, 8-5 with a win our favorite bowl, the Duke Mayo Bowl, the Mayo Bowl, and 8-5 in 2023, and which a bowl game I wouldn't mind going to is the Music City Bowl. That might be a fun one to go to. If we do.
Oh yeah, I like Nashville. We could. Well, I think I wouldn't drive anymore, but I definitely fly.
Maybe a short flight, maybe like an hour flight. We wouldn't do too bad. Less than that, maybe a short flight to Nashville from here, from DC.
Yeah.
But
it's not short as you think, though. Yeah, it's about 2 hours. But okay.
I can do it 2 hours.
Right.
But it's actually probably you get to add another 4 hours on top of that with the airport. But that's another story for another day. But and then like last year, I think the season started off hot. And then after the quarterback play kind of diminished the quality season, them going 4-8, 1-8 in the conference, not making a bowl game. So I think, as you said earlier, with the QB competition we have with the 3 young quarterbacks and the transfer Bryant coming in, I think it's going to be a different thing. And they got some talent. Which another thing I want to talk about is some more talent coming in to the team. We have 7 more prospects after Carlos Moore Jr., who who came in, and then these guys are looking pretty impressive. I'm gonna run them down real quick for you so you can get a quick idea who they are. We have starting off with we have. Oops, sorry, I had the wrong one here. We want to share this one here. Excuse me.
Right.
And this one here is we have starting off with Gavin Edwards, defensive back, redshirt sophomore from Allen, South Carolina, played at Alston, PA. We have Edwin Moore Jr., sophomore defensive lineman. Who's coming from
Well,
Western Carolina. We have
he's gonna be an athlete. I'll tell
yes,
you again, that dude right there, and I haven't
yeah,
seen him yet, but the fact that he's from Decatur,
yeah.
and played in a really tough high school football program, and I know because I used to cover that beat when I worked down there. He's gonna be athletic. He's gonna be fast. Okay. And when you start talking about somebody coming off the edge, and a guy who is really impressive in terms of, how much the way he gets after quarterbacks and tackles for loss. I mean, and Columbia High, the program that he played in, is always a contender for a state championship. So his pedigree is there. Can the schemes and what have you unlock it so he can continue to be that player?
I like that. I like that you said there was another area, a huge area for great athletes coming out. Is that Georgia area? Is that Decatur? How far outside the land's Decatur? Is it pretty close
Yeah,
to the land?
that's right
Like a
out there.
suburb?
That's the edge of town. I mean, Columbia High is kind of pushing it towards Stone Mountain, but the DeKalb County football program in Georgia is second to none when it comes out. Producing states, just that whole area. I mean, you think about it. There were so many players when I was down there covering high school football that was crazy that I didn't know that I was watching who would end up being stars. And as fate would have it, I was the guy who got dispatched to Douglas High School in Atlanta, Chuck, to cover this running back who no other reporter in town wanted to come see because everybody was sprung on. Remember Patrick Pass, who was supposed to be the second coming. He was supposed to be Herschel Walker, but you might have heard of this kid that played in Baltimore, Jamal Lewis. I was the only
I've heard of
reporter that from the Atlanta news sports department that covered him when he signed to play at University of Tennessee. And it just lets you know that was a season where you had Quincy Carter coming from Southwest DeKalb, another one of those DeKalb County programs. Oh my goodness, it was just so many players in that area, and that's how it is in Georgia. Death taxes in football. And as long as the Bulldogs are doing fire, everything is all right.
Yeah, that's sounds like I said 6'3", 281 defensive lineman,
And an
probably play the
athlete.
edge athlete, yes sir. And we have a couple other cats coming in. Sean Hare from the Emerald Isles of Ireland, kicker who
Oh,
had
that's great.
recorded.
Yeah,
We have
I wonder did he play rugby or whether he played football, soccer, as we know it.
yeah, I
But
think
you
he
got
was
to be
probably.
tough. You got to be tough to play that rugby thing, man. I
And he
know my
does have a leg.
limitations, and rugby is one of them.
He does have a leg. He recorded a 50-yard field goal against William and Mary and a 47-yard on 2 occasions. So if games get close and you need that kicker, sometimes that kicker is the most important player in the last few minutes of the game. When you just get in his range and he can make that kick. And this kid looks like he's got the leg to boot us into a possible bowl game.
Well, I mean, think about it, man. He's the perfect guy to have on your team if your team is fortunate enough to play in a bowl game in Ireland.
Yeah,
He probably know all the
exactly.
spots to get you a good pint.
Get a nice pie against, and maybe
Absolutely.
some Tullamadu. Jameson is for the peasants. They drink the Tullamadu is the good stuff. So. I got Cam Rice, another defensive lineman. He from Morgantown, West Virginia, played at Ohio University. He had a pretty decent season last year with the Bobcats. He had 30 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. He also played at West Liberty University. Had a pretty good
I've been
career
there.
there. Yeah. He was a Division II All-American in 2023. So he wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school as he played in Division II. Now he's working his way up to Division I. But he was also the 2023 Harlan Hill Trophy nominee for Defensive Player of the Year in Division II. So that's showing he exceeded expectations at his current level and figured he wants maybe a bigger challenge and from uh transferred from West Liberty to Ohio University. Now he's going from the MAC, I think it's MAC University, and then now he's going to the Big Ten.
If I can jump in, another one of the places is that the OG has traveled. I've been to West Liberty. It's a beautiful Division II school in West Liberty, West Virginia. You got to go up a mountain like 3 miles to get to the campus. So why did I bring that up? This kid is tough. Okay, let's just be clear. If you can handle that, you are tough. And I like the way, if you look at his resume, how that kid just kind of stuck with it. You get your shot at West Liberty. You think you're a Division I player. And where you go? 89 tackles, 37 for loss, and 14 and a half sacks. You dominated at an elite level, at such a high level, that you end up getting to what we would have formerly called a mid-major program, right? And now you see him all the way up at what would be for him the show. If we want to look at it right. So all things, get big, you get physical, you get a guy that's been through some things, who's playing some players. You get you got a guy that's transferring from Florida State, and Jordan Scott, the receiver. We do know one thing, that despite the fact the Florida State program is by no means the Florida State when Charlie Ward was playing, and shouts out to Charlie Ward getting that job at FAMU as a basketball coach. How about that? Anyway, but the point I'm trying to make overall is that you're getting better athletes through this portal. And I heard an athletic administrator at my alma mater say that, one thing about being a part of an institution that's in the portal, it gives you an opportunity to do some creative things legally under the NCAA guidelines, such that they are. And I like what Maryland seems to be doing right now in terms of the type of athletes that they're recruiting. I mean, you even get a kid like Cedric Smith coming from Alabama A&M. I'm a SWAT guy, all right? I mean, Maryland may have found a steal because, again, when you start talking about players from that town, right, you're going to have to find a way to keep them. You know what I'm saying? When you're going to have to find a way to continue to build your brand up around the country, right? And I think that these are the kind of guys, if this crew can get you to at least contending for a playoff spot, it changes the direct trajectory of the program. And and quite frankly, Chuck, these are the guys that could be the foundation for the change in the direction of the program. That's really where I'm looking at it.
Yeah, 6'7" wide receiver. My goodness, that kid's probably going to just be doing jump ball after jump ball in the red zone when we get down low, because I don't see any defensive back who can box him out and prevent him from catching any touchdowns. Like I said, we don't know about his top end speed, but you said people coming from my neck of the woods where I grew up, Lynchburg, Virginia, down south of Charlottesville. So that Appomattox County is also a hidden gem of athletic prowess out there, because it's not much else to do out there besides play sports. So they're going to find their local talent and make sure they get their their eyes on their local talent there.
And those dudes and the athletes down there, like you said, are athletes, so they can do 1,000,001 different things. See Allen Iverson, see Michael Vick, right? Mm-hmm. But they do bring speed. Speed wins in college football, man. It is a speed game as much as anything else. And that's why I forgot who said it. Might have been Bear Bryant. If my youngins are bigger than your youngins and they're faster than your youngins, then I'm going to beat your youngins or something like that. And that's basically what it is. Speed kills in football, period, point blank, end of sentence. And Maryland, it looks like they're getting bigger in the trenches. Looks like they're getting swifter on the edges. And again, we're talking in the middle of May, and there may be a few additions. You never know. There may be some last-minute additions through the portal of some sort that could change the trajectory or the dynamic of the team. But Pep Hamilton can coach. Pep Hamilton may be even a better recruiter than he is a coach, which is saying a lot. Mike Loxley has always been able to recruit. So now it looks like they're bringing a new edge to the game of talent acquisition. And again, signing day may be no more, but we have to start looking at that for what it is in terms of the length of time that you're going to have with the player that's here in your program. And I think that's the transition that this organization has to move into. And I know we, as reporter types, lay people who've been around the game, it's kind of difficult to look at the purity of college sports that we thought there was. Now where it's a business and you have to start making change to operate in such a way. And on paper, it looks like some of the guys that they got are helping the Terps grow in that direction. I'm just hoping that it pays out, because there are Terp football fans here. And I mean, deep ties as far north as Baltimore, out west to, Cumberland, down on the Eastern Shore. This is the flagship of the state. Everybody's happy when the Terps are winning. You can see them on national TV. And I think that's the challenge that they face right now. I think basketball is back. I will say this. People can hate on Kevin Willard, but he did get them to the Sweet 16, and they did make a one shining moment. That's a thing. Brenda Freeze is so good, I just take her for granted. I just wake up, there's three things in life: death, taxes, and Brenda taking the team to the tournament. You got a story if Maryland's women not there. The lacrosse team, it's the same thing. The signature program normally for any school as a franchise is football. Some of us who grew up in the ACC days where football was secondary to basketball, we're just going to have to come to the grips with the fact that if you really want, there are three tournaments you must show up in consistently. College football playoffs, men's basketball tournament, and the women's basketball tournament. I'm glad to see baseball and softball are getting their props as far as swing sports in the spring, but we all know where the bread is buttered. You got to dominate. And Maryland, who is consistently good in lacrosse, consistently good in baseball now, consistently good in women's lacrosse and field hockey and soccer. This looks like it could be the perfect storm at the right time. Now, again, football has set the tone with we're winning early in the season, right? But I mean, that's what we have in May. We got faith in May. No, there are no injuries. Hopefully everybody is in summer school getting eligible if they need be, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man. Maybe it's me. I'm buying the vibe. There are people I talk to who have people who are inside of the program, and they get a different sense of energy about this group than they have felt in quite some time. So that's one of the things that I know I'm looking forward to seeing. If this momentum is sustainable, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I also feel the fact that since that our closest big time recruiting rivals when it comes to just the local area in Virginia and Virginia Tech have some down seasons, possibly Maryland can steal some of the areas that New England would go to them, like obviously the 757 area down there, Virginia Beach, Tidewater, Norfolk area. Maybe say instead of going to Tech, which Tech had a lock hold on that area for a long time, maybe get some of those kids to come up north a little bit. UVA used to have like a very good area, good lock hold in the Jersey area. And maybe get to say those guys going to Rutgers or going to UVA, they can come down this way. So there is opportunity.
Yeah, but they got to win some, it really comes down to wins and losses. It really does, Chuck. I mean, and, guys executing in the moment. And I think that at least on paper, it looks as though they addressed some weaknesses. Certainly the place kicking situation was just off. All right. It's just, and you can't. Maryland's recruiting right now into the point where you can make 2 or 3 critical mistakes, miss an extra point, block punt, miss field goal, chip shot. Maryland's not at a program right now where they can overcome shooting themselves in the foot. You can't do it. Some teams can do that. Michigan can make a few mistakes. Ohio State can make a few mistakes. I like Indiana. Penn State, they can get away with stuff because they have such talent and just a tradition that kind of says we always going to win. Maryland's trying to build to that right now. And I think Mike Locksley is a perfect guy to help that program get to a level where you can sustain credibility. That's really what I believe. Now, the kids have to go out and win it. The kids really have to go out and want it. And if you can convince those kids that, want it, and, by all accounts, and I mean, you got Locksley and Pep Hamilton and Ted White, who all know how to speak to young players. They Gen Xers with, millennial vibe. And that's how you're going to have to communicate with this generation. It'll be interesting to see how the portal works out. And before I let you go, Chuck, I got to admit this. I'm for player independence and a second chance opportunity because the players never really seem to get them back in the day. But there's got to be, when you get these kids in the portal, you have to win. You don't want to be thought of as a school that I can go get paid, I can go get some shine, but I'm moving on. You know what I'm saying? You want your spot to be a destination. You want your spot to be a place that is attractive to talents so that the school sells itself. You don't necessarily have to sell them on the school, right? And again, we've taken the dynamic of loyalty out. It is about getting paid. So, last thing you want to do is pay somebody and have a bad season. You get known as a team that pays well but can't win. And so it's like the dude drop in. I heard Ryan Clark the other day talking about, making a phone call at 3:00 in the morning to try to catch up with somebody that you really hadn't been thinking about until the club lights came on. You was ready to leave. And that's basically, in many respects, how you got to be mindful when you're in this growth stage of your program. When you're rebuilding the brand, that you get treated like, a champion, not a slump buster.
I want to wrap it up by saying, like, I look at it like the NFL draft. Every team wants to have that number 1 overall pick by the end of the day, but it's always the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round guys that build your team. So Maryland can focus on those. They don't have to get every 5-star elite recruit. They can get 1 or 2 and then fill up the gaps with those high 2s, low 3s to help fill in those gaps. That is going to be the key to how this franchise is going to move forward as a university, as a football powerhouse. But in closing, I want to talk about our extra point here, and that is something that should be dear to your heart. And Maryland Athletics wins 7 CCS Fred Stavey Writing Awards this year. That's your department when it comes to molding these young minds and these young journalists. I'm one of those proteges of yours as well, and definitely appreciate everything you taught me.
Yeah, you succeeded in spite of me.
So as you can see here, the University of Maryland Athletics.
And see, here's the deal, man. This is what makes the whole college experience for me about. You see a baby, they come into you as a freshman, naive, unsure. They fall off the bike, if you will. Sometimes you pick them back up, put a Band-Aid on the kid, and send them back out there, and they continue to move. And I know on my academic side of my career, that's why I teach, to watch the light bulb goes off and you do your thing. So this is as proud for me as somebody on staff on campus as anything, because that's what it's about. The student athlete experience is about the growth and the elevation of the person and not just wins and losses. And to me, I don't know if these kids will ever have any, athletic national championship rings or anything, but they'll know this. And this is just as important as any ring without the hype. So big ups to all the people who won the writing awards, because, I mean, you guys are the griots of the future. You're going to have to tell the stories of your struggles in ways that people can understand in order to get your points across. And I'm just so proud that to see these kids represent as student athletes. And see, that's the thing that people don't talk about with student athletes, man. That is a very difficult life. Let's be clear about something. You are always on the clock. And you have to learn how to balance your time in order to practice, train.
Talking about practice.
Yeah. We're talking about practice, because that's part of that. Because you practice before you play the game. That's why we talking about practice. But for them to balance practice time, bro. So that's what big ups to Terp Nation. I'm sure the Blackest Stones, David Steels, and all those guys, Dean Laurenti, Raphael. Hey, congratulations, y'all. Y'all did a hell of a job, and I'm down to be down with Terp Nation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes that
That's
degree.
Just the wins in football season. We want a warm weather trip. If we don't make the college football playoffs, we want a warm weather trip. Okay, and no colder, like Chuck said, than a trip to Nashville, or Memphis.
Yeah.
Or any place where it's like 30 degrees warmer than it is when we leave here.
I'm not wouldn't be against a trip out to the islands in Hawaii either. You know what I'm saying? Just go to the beaches.
The Aloha Bowl.
Aloha Bowl, the Honolulu Bowl. Yeah, both. There's two bowls out there, I think, still. The Aloha Bowl and the Honolulu Bowl. I wouldn't mind.
So old, I remember when Boomer Esiason played in the Holiday Bowl.
But no humanitarian bowl. I don't want any blue turf. I don't want
Aloha. No blue turf bowls.
No blue turf bowls. No, thank you. I'm trying to escape the cold, not going to colder.
Exactly. Do you know that birds actually die flying into that stadium because they think the blue turf is water?
Really?
Really? I couldn't make that up if I tried.
That's hilarious.
They were like Audubon Society people who were trying to take the stadium to court so that they would pull up the blue turf because the birds weren't smart enough to realize when they came crashing into the water, it was turf. I'm sorry. True story, man. Google it. I wouldn't make nothing like that up. I like the birds. Not feeling the Orioles as much as I have in the past, though, but that's a topic for another conversation.
That's a topic for our other endeavor at MLBbro.com. But we'll talk about that across the
we got O's and Yankees. We got O's and Nats this weekend, though.
Yes, we do. Huge battle of the Beltways. O's versus Nats. And apparently, before the beginning of the season, I thought it would be the O's and the Nats be stinking up the joint. But the Nats have shown some promise. But like I said, we'll talk more about that at MLBbro.com. So, Mark, tell everybody where they can find you in social media.
At the Sports Groove, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm all over the place in cyberspace, and MLBbro.com. Very interesting conversation this week on Pete Rose and Barry Bonds. How's that for a clever tease? So go over to the website, MLBbro.com, and hear the conversation that we have about Rose and Bonds and their road to the Hall of Fame.
I can't wait, because for those who don't know, I am pro Bonds in the Hall of Fame. I feel that the best pitcher was on the juice and the best hitter was on the juice, and a lot more people than they think were on the juice. So if You can take there's a lot of people on that list who took the juice who weren't that good. So it doesn't really make you better. But I digress. That's another conversation
Yeah,
for
we're
another
not going
day.
to talk about the greenies, the amphetamines, but that's anyway.
No.
Always a pleasure to talk with you, Chuck.
Yes, sir. You can find me at Charles Younger. That's CharlesNyonga, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Snapchat. I'm trying to get back into snapping because
I don't
snap
know
your
how
fingers.
I never got the snap thing. I never got that concept. I was like, anyway, I know how to snap like I'm doing spoken word.
Snapchat. All right, this has been Maryland Live at the Voice of College Football. I am Charles Young along with Professor G. Mark Gray. Stay tuned for next week. I'll be rolling solo. Mark will be on his way doing some things and some things for himself and his family. So we will be seeing you next week, Friday around 2 o'clock. Stay tuned for the Voice Maryland Live at the Voice of College Football. Like I said, I am Charles Young along with Mark Gray. Everybody have a great weekend. Deuces, ooses, and take care.